And so we almost have to come back and kind of look at dads. Plus, myself included, there are a lot of what I call new old dads. The number of dads over age 45 is dramatically
Well, you got
increasing.
the cougars on the one hand, and you got the old dads on the other hand. You know, everything's being rewritten, it sounds
But
like.
my point is nobody writes. See, in America, we usually don't see trends for 10 or 15 years after they happen, right? So because we're so busy predicting the future, we don't look at the present.
Do we want to be in the future too much?
We have to, you know, part of the point of the book is we would be much better at predicting the future if we understood the present better. Yeah. So something like New Old Dads, there's not a book, there's not a manual. You know, if you're going to be 72 at college graduation, it's a very different experience than if you're 42.
You give me such a perfect segue, I can't resist it, to like move this a little bit into politics now. And I want to talk to you a little bit about you, because I'm hoping that you can, you know, straighten some things out. That, you know, because if you Google you, it might as well just be Mark Penn is to blame, Mark Penn is to blame, Mark Penn is to blame. There is this, you've been through a lot lately, and let's talk about a little bit of it. You were working on the Hillary Clinton campaign, and I think one of the perceptions is that you got fired for mismanaging the campaign. That's not true, is it?
Well, you know, again, I'm not going to go through. We're here to talk about the book, but
let's talk about this a little bit too.
But I continue to work as an advisor for the campaign. It's serious.
Right.
We do continue to work as that.
And the issue was not what you were doing with the campaign. It had to do with what you were doing for the Colombian government.
The issue had to do with a conflict between a client and a meeting, you know, that I acknowledged was an error, and then you know, I stepped back and I continue to be an advisor. And
it was a contract of what, $300,000? That's not the big money in lobbying, is it? There's bigger money than that.
Well, you know, I'm not a lobbyist. It was not even a lobbying contract.
It's not. It was a
PR.
polling PR.
Yeah.
You wear many hats.
Yes, that's right.
You own two businesses. You run
I
one
don't
business.
actually own any businesses.
You don't
anymore.
own, but you have two businesses that you.
You know, I've sold my business now almost, you know, 7-8 years ago, and so now I.
So are you only Burson Marsteller now?
So you know, I'm CEO of Burson Marsteller and Penn and Schoen and a number of.
And Penn and Schoen is a separate
company.
But
it's also part of the. It's all part of something that's owned by a larger holding company.
But you. So there's another company, and then you do your political work for the Clintons through Penn and Schoen. Right. Another possible misconception is that then when you had this separation with the Clintons, that it ended your friendship with them, but you're still friends with them.
Well, again, I continue to work on the campaign. I think I had made an error in judgment. We changed my role and.
You made an error in judgment in regard to
in regard to, you know, this conflict that occurred and played itself out, and I've stepped back and I'm one of a group of advisors in the campaign.
Do you talk to them every day?
Well, I don't go through the. People always ask these questions of what do they say? And
no, I don't. You don't need to tell me what they say. Part of what makes me a good
advisor is.
But I'm just. I just want to.
I'm a regular.
Your friendship is intact.
Absolutely.
And your communication with them is intact.
Yeah.
This was not a breakdown in the Mark Penn, Bill and Hillary Clinton friendship.
I continue to be an advisor. And
so then how do you feel about the people in the campaign who admittedly do snipe at you? And why can't the Clintons stop that?
Look, I think that the campaign is ongoing. It's active.
You think that's just part of the game?
You know, I tell you, it's part of the. It is just part of the game, and I think let's let this campaign continue. The important thing really now is the nomination is not over. We've still got contests left. She just won Kentucky 2-1. You know, the important thing is to focus on how she continues to move forward and not any back and forth about.
Have you had reflective moments though on a little bit on the past on the campaign where you were involved in it?
Well, sure. I continue. Everyone has reflective moments.
Yeah.
About what they're doing. In fact, when you always have to kind of replay things, I think, you know, over and over
What
again.
have you replayed most often?
Well, ask me in a couple of months and we'll see either as we move forward one way or the other.
And really, I'm not trying to, I mean, because I think it's interesting, Mark, and I think a lot of people think it's interesting because because they rely on you. You were very important to them, as you still are. The kinds of information that you bring to a campaign is interesting information. It is relevant information. But I think for everybody, not just you, but the media and the citizenry, this campaign has gone much differently than most people predicted 6 months ago. There are many surprises, but weren't you surprised by some of the directions? I mean, has Barack Obama surprised you?
Look, politics is a surprise. I think you've got a lot of surprises left. It's a surprise that John McCain is the nominee on the Republican side.
What do you make of Giuliani not being the nominee?
Again, I think it was a surprise that he didn't go further. I think that this is one of the most unpredictable things on the entire planet. Is a group of people start out who could be president, and the person who ends up there, it is right now it's not even decided who the Democratic nominee is, and there are really 3 people who could be president, but it is consistently.
Do you want to make a prediction?
It's consistently unpredictable. You know,
you don't want to.
That's what I can tell you. But look, I always stick with my client.
Were there some trends that you thought you saw that ended up not being there?
Look, I think that you see what a strong candidate she is. You really kind of see how working class voters, seniors, women, how many people have really coalesced. More people have voted for her and cast ballots for her than for any other person ever up for the nomination.
But
in the
there's
history
2
of
points
party.
of view
There's
on
17 million people supporting.
Well, there are different points of view on that. What do you make of?
No. There's no question that more people voted for her.
Well, it's how you add it all up, because by the time this has its life on YouTube and on television, everything could be different again. But what do you say about the youth vote? What do you see in that? Because that has been very strong. The young people have been out in big numbers.
Well, actually, I think young people are involved. They were actually, if you look at 2004, young people moved from 14% to 17% of the electorate. But never forget, and it's one of the points I make in the book, America's actually never been older. That the shift in the population and to the baby boomers, although it's very difficult to get into college this year, in another couple of years it won't be as difficult because the age structure is actually moving to people living much longer, to being much older. That's really what the Social Security crisis is about. So one of the points of the book is there's so much emphasis on youth, but in fact, the society has never been older, and people 50 and over are, I think, living, they call it second life on the internet, but they're living very much second lives.
When you see 75,000 people show up for Barack Obama in Oregon, what do you think of that? I mean, that's just unheard of numbers in politics.
Well, I used to go to these rallies. It used to be amazing with.
I mean, I suppose Bill Clinton probably got those.
Bill Clinton got those guys. We would be sitting somewhere in the White House on Tuesday and say, next Wednesday, let's show up in Michigan, and 40,000 people would be there. It's really interesting. We love to show up for our political figures. I worked with Tony Blair very successfully in his last election, and in the UK they don't. To get 300 or 400 people for their prime minister was a big crowd. You had to build it. They don't want to show up. Their attitude is, hey, we employ them, right? They work for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And they don't actually show. And here we're into so much more. I think right now, in particular, in showing up. She got tremendous record crowds in so many different places, as well. People are becoming. Look, everything that everybody said about politics that people were less interested in it, that they were leaving the system, it was all untrue. I mean, and I thought it was untrue too.
Were you able to see that the numbers of registered voters would increase at the rate that they did in these past several months?
Well, in these months, everything's increased. I mean, that's very clear.
And do you still do exit polling? I mean, do you still do polling for this race right now? You're still on it every day?
Yeah.
And what kinds of questions are you asking people now?
Well, look, now we're
You're in Puerto Rico.
We're winding down, but I think again what you're seeing is, and what you saw, in Kentucky and West Virginia and Pennsylvania, you're seeing that voters are saying the race isn't over, and if they support Hillary or they support Barack, they're showing up and they're voting.